How did you learn the sad news of John?
Linda had taken the kids to school. We each would alternate, and she'd taken the kids to school. And I got a phone call from my office, from this office, in fact. And the bloke who was running it at the time said to me, "I've got some terrible news for you." So, oh, my God. I was, you know, when you hear that, you know, oh, my God, how terrible are we talking here? And he said, "John's just been shot dead." And, oh, my God. And you immediately, I think it was the same reaction as everyone else. No, 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 just tell me he's been shot, wounded. Not dead. Don't say that word. I don't want that word. So I was just wrecked, really. And then Linda came back, and she could see I'd gone all pale and couldn't really say. She said, "What the hell's wrong?" So I told her. And funny thing is, then I really didn't know what to do with myself. And I had a work day planned in London. So I just said, I'm just going to go to work. I couldn't think of anything else to do, so I did. I was working with George Martin. He came into work. So we both sort of had the same reaction. We just carry on like robots, you know. And we didn't have much of a day, obviously. It was a crazy day. And it was only that evening it really hit me. It was the same as Lady Di, actually. The day I was very sort of stoic and, well, yeah, and somebody stuck a microphone in the thing and said, what is your comment? And I've never been one for the sort of two-liner. John was a great guy. I'm really sad to see him gone. You know, I couldn't do the pundits came on later. Lennon was this, and they all had things to say. I mean, half of them had written it in advance anyway. They worked for newspapers. They'd written their obits in advance. So they knew what to say. I couldn't think of what to say. It was that evening I just went home and wept and just let it all out then. And that was really all I had to say. I didn't have much to say. The only thing I had to say was that the guy was the jerk of all jerks. That was the phrase, you know. Did he know what he'd done? Did he know how senseless and meaningless it was? And, you know, that just kept running over in my head. But it was basically, I was just emotional. But I tend to be emotional in private. It's not easy for me to be publicly emotional. When we were kids, we always used to say, OK, whoever dies first, get a message through. Yeah. Right, well, Stuart Sutcliffe was the first to die first, and I never had a message. I don't think any of us had a message from Stuart. Well, then when John died, I thought, well, maybe we'll get a message through, because I know he knew the deal. Yeah. I haven't had a message from John. So I don't know. Now, I don't know if you can get messages back. Maybe you live, but there's no postal service.
Clearly, the idea that he was the avant-garde one, and you were the one who was more approachable, and he was the acerbic one all the time, and the cynical one all the time, and you were not. And I mean, it was not as simple as that, was it? No,
I think, you know, when you look at anyone who gets famous, people pigeonhole them. They'll just say, so-and-so, he was witty, bright, and I've written a lot of ballads that have been very successful. They tend to sort of put me in the balladeer, but they forget, you know, that I've done a lot of other stuff as well. It's, at least they give me credit for something, you know, so it's not too bad. But yeah, the truth was that when John and I were together, we're much more equal. When we get in public, his front would come down. I never needed it, because my family in Liverpool was very sort of comfortable, and you were quite confident to be around people. John was always having to fight. He was always having to put up a front. And, oh, yeah, what do you mean? And he was suspected, so he had this acerbic wit, they called it, as a defense mechanism, I'm sure. And it was only later, you know, after really we'd finished working together, that I started to realize where it all came from. I mean, his father left home when he was 3. It didn't happen to me. My dad was always there. He was living with his aunt, his maiden aunt, and the uncle died. So John said to me later, he said, I started to feel like I was a jinx on the male members of the family, you know. Every time John showed up, they died or left, something, you know. And obviously that goes for a young brain. So, yeah, he did grow up with that. But when we were private and together and there was no need for that, I could just as often be the sort of baddie in the situation. And he could be a real soft sweetie, you know. It took everyone by surprise, that. But I think in many ways we're kind of equal, really. And I suspect that if that hadn't have been, then we wouldn't have put up with each other for so long. He would have got fed up with me just being the soppy one. I would have got fed up with him just being acerbic all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so I think, you know, we were very good for each other.